you do when a partner of 7 years says they won't marry you as you are right now? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, my 32-year-old female, boyfriend 35-year-old male, violated my trust with a female coworker to spite me. We've had fights about a particular coworker because they were spending a lot of time texting and FaceTiming outside of work. He is her boss, and they work very closely together. The last fight we had, it was agreed that he'd keep things professional from now on because the communication was excessive and I was not comfortable with it. I want to add, I'm not a jealous person. He has plenty of female friends that I don't think twice about or complain about. But I have specific reasons why their friendship outside of work made me uncomfortable. She is the only one I've asked him to limit contact with. Today, I found out that he'd spent the last couple of weeks talking to her on the phone outside of work for long periods of time. I calmly asked him about it and what was going on and why it was happening again after we agreed to set boundaries. His response was that we were fighting and he did it purposefully to hurt me. He spent large amounts of time on the phone with another woman to make me feel hurt because we were fighting. I feel like my trust has been completely violated. They spend time on the phone at late night hours. We all work graveyard, but still, this was happening while they were both off, and I was at work, none the wiser. Not once, but multiple nights over the last couple of weeks. I feel humiliated. I'm feeling like this is a deal breaker for me. This seems really inappropriate and immature, like he went running to another woman for comfort, a woman he knows very well I'm not comfortable with. I guess I'm just looking for some feedback as to whether I'm overreacting, or this is just really crappy of him and I have a right to be upset. Any answers are appreciated. What do you think? What should I do about this? Is it a violation of our relationship? Enough to consider breaking up? Honestly, I'm hoping he's lying because if he's 35 years old and running off just to spite you because you were having an argument, then they are still such a child. I legitimately wonder whether that's just his lame cover-up excuse for why he was actually talking to this lady. Either way, personally, and I don't know how long this relationship has gone on, but I feel like this very easily could be a deal breaker, right? Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to break down incredibly hard to answer relationship questions, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is me, 27-year-old female, with my boyfriend, 27-year-old male of 6.5 years, doesn't want marriage. I've tried to hint this numerous times, and I've outright even told him, but he doesn't want to ever get married. The first time this conversation came, we had just gone to his cousin's son's first birthday. I remarked how much of a bundle of joy he was, and maybe I can't wait to have a kid on my own. He agreed with me and said he wanted kids. Since then, I've tried to raise the conversation about kids a few more times. First, I didn't even think about mentioning marriage. I always assumed that we'd get married and then have kids. Another time, I mentioned how we should have kids only a couple of years after marriage. His face looked like I was speaking an alien language. His exact words were, "We don't need to get married to have kids. You just need to get off your IUD, if you know what I mean." Knowing him, he wasn't trying to be rude and I didn't consider it rude. It was just so matter-of-fact statement that struck me, but I didn't raise it with him again. Today, I said that marriage was really important to me because I loved him. I wanted something stable and not just be boyfriend, girlfriend, and that if we weren't going to get married, we were going to have some more tough conversations. I wanted a family. After that, he just exited the room. I kid you not, 10 minutes later, he sends me a form on my phone for a domestic partnership. We live in California, with some info he filled out. He had filled it out and said, "Let's go to the notary tomorrow and get this signed and mailed to the right people." His argument was that this was cheaper than a marriage license. The notary is free at the bank. Filing cost is like $35 or something. Marriage license costs more. What the freak do I say to this? I mean, he has to wake up really early tomorrow, so he's asleep right now. I mean, I think it depends what OP wants to say to this. If your heart is set on marriage, an actual marriage, not domestic partnership, then by all means, when it's appropriate, you should share that and have that conversation. I mean, I know your relationship has gone on for 6.5 years, and it's very crushing to disagree on something so fundamental, but I don't think you can ignore it if it's something that you truly do want. I'm kind of curious why they seem to be kind of dodging it though, because that domestic partnership thing suggests they might be open to it, but kind of curbed it in a weird way. Our next story is, my boyfriend, 31-year-old male, of 51 years, still acts upset at me, 36-year-old female, due to choosing not to convert to Judaism for marriage after he already accepted my decision 2 years ago. Should I bite the bullet and end the relationship? Living situation, my boyfriend lives with his parents and I live within my parents' building but have my own apartment. My boyfriend still feels resentful about me not converting to Judaism after he asked me 2 to 3 years ago. He claims I strung him along by first agreeing to convert to Judaism for marriage so that his family would accept me, and later changing my mind several months later. He also blames my mother for brainwashing me against converting, which is not true. I feel like he strung me along instead by asking me to convert after a year into our relationship. I only said yes because at the time, I was very emotionally attached. And he talked about it like it was absolutely necessary. When we started dating, he told me he was atheist like me and his family was Jewish. If I knew I had to convert to a different religion in order to someday marry, I would have never have dated him in the first place. Although my mother disapproved of the idea, she's not the sole reason I changed my mind. Before speaking with her, I read multiple theories on the existence of God, including theories written by a Jewish philosopher, which I found to be logically inconsistent. I also purchased a book about conversion to Judaism and read halfway in until deciding the religion didn't speak to me at all. I wrote a journal entry about my feelings and that my readings have only reaffirmed my agnostic atheism. I also posted here on Reddit, talked to friends and other family members too, and everyone held equal sentiment that conversion would be a mistake. I told my boyfriend all of this when I changed my mind about conversion, and he seemed disappointed but accepted my decision. However, since then, he acts as if me choosing not to convert has caused harm to our relationship. I thought he would just marry me anyway, no matter what his parents think. However, he's voiced an opinion that he does not feel optimistic about treating his family from mine. If we married, his family would have to give him a funeral and would most likely cut him off after that. It's been 5 years into our relationship, and I've never met any of his immediate family members due to this religious barrier. He proposed that we move to a different state because he dislikes New York, and I declined because I have my job and lots of family here and don't feel a desire to move far away as a solution. I feel he's selfish, cowardly, and it's affecting my feelings for him. We seem to be incompatible and in constant limbo. My life feels like it's in a standstill and it's depressing. Should I stop waiting for him to either choose to be with me or break up with me and break it off now? To me, I definitely feel like this is a fundamental issue that doesn't seem to be getting resolved anytime soon. I have family members who are married who have totally different religions and never even heard an ounce of a problem coming from them. This comes down to him and his family for being so intolerable to anybody else other than those in their religion, and him for not having a backbone to be with the person they care about over these intolerable family members. I do think at some point a line has to be drawn in the sand. Either you guys live the life you guys deserve together, or he lives in constant fear of what his family members think and loses the relationship. This next story is, brother-in-law always shows up unannounced. What should I do? For years now, my brother-in-law always shows up to the house I share with my fiance without texting or calling to see if we're available for a visit. He knocks on the door when we're just having breakfast on the weekend or later in the day and stays for hours. At times, he shows up around dinner time and sometimes doesn't leave and stays for dinner or stays way too long. And it becomes awkward because we have dinner plans, enough food for two, and he's still here. This happens at least once a week, sometimes twice. My other brother-in-law recently started to do the same. He started showing up once or twice per week, and often right after we did work and around summertime. A couple of times now we ordered food for three, and he didn't even pay his share or even offer money to compensate us after. He stays all evening sometimes, and I find it just very imposing. I need my privacy and time for myself. I'm a very introverted person and like to be asked if it's a good time before just showing up at my house. especially when it's after work or around meal times. I've tried to explain my perspective to my fiance, and although he agrees that it's kind of annoying and thoughtless, he says it's not his fault and that I shouldn't take it out on him. I said I could let them know how I feel. The thing is, I've already talked to the second brother about a month ago, indirectly, about how their other brother always did that, and how I didn't really like the pop-ins. It's strange to me that the second brother would start doing that all of a sudden, even after I mentioned it. Yesterday, I'd finished my workday and went to the grocery store, and when I came back home and started unloading groceries, he knocked on our door and ended up staying for supper, which was paid by us, and stayed for hours. I've told my fiance that if it becomes a real issue, you'll have to tell them to ask us first if it's a good time to come over. I'm sorry it's come to this, but I think I'm in the right in wanting to establish some boundaries here. Any advice? Thoughts? Oh, I think OP's definitely in the right. This is a very, very normal boundary to have, and personally I think it is a little concerning for you to say, listen, I need my privacy, I need to not have an open door policy, and to have that disregarded by multiple people. OP needs to speak up for sure and explain what they're comfortable with. This next story is husband, male 27, didn't tell me, female 28, that he got a new tattoo. I just found out due to a necessary medical exam that I was present for, not because he volunteered the info, that my husband of 2 years got a new tattoo about a month ago. It's in an area that I would have never noticed. He knows I personally don't like tattoos, but I don't judge or criticize other people for having them. He already had one prior to our relationship and it didn't bother me. I felt super weirded out and almost lied to that he didn't tell me about this new one though. He never even told me he was thinking about this one. He said it's because he thought I wouldn't like it and would think it was dumb. Again, I don't judge or criticize tattoos, but he's previously asked my opinion about them, and I've told him I'm not a fan, but that it's his decision to get tattoos, obviously. I told him that me not agreeing with an idea isn't a reason to withhold the information from me, especially since I'm not even someone who explodes or goes crazy when something I don't care for happens. I'm very much in control of my emotions and actions, generally speaking, and am very careful not to shame or criticize. We've had issues with him being dishonest, withholding information, hiding things, etc. So even though his personal tattoo has no effect on me in my life, the fact that he didn't tell me feels super icky, and he doesn't seem to understand that or why. And now I'm feeling upset that he didn't validate my feelings at all. He just said he didn't see it that way and left it. Am I overreacting? How can I better relay to him how this has affected me in our relationship? I mean, maybe you could argue if OP said too much about hating tattoos or thinking they're disgusting or something, that it would have created a hostile enough environment that somebody wouldn't want to share, but it doesn't really sound like OP went that far. I feel like the most important thing in a situation like this with your partner is being able to be open about that. If they want to get a tattoo, I think that should be fine if that's their decision, and you shouldn't feel like you have to hide that from your partner. I feel like there was a definite communication failure on the husband's part here, and I think I would just go about it in the way of addressing that being open and honest, even if it's something that you might think is flawed or not the most 100% supported by the other person decision, like getting a tattoo with your partner who doesn't care for them, is the most important thing. Personally, in the past, I know I've had the hardest time opening up and being honest, and I've found out firsthand on multiple occasions that the only thing that hurts worse than telling them something they might not want to hear is them finding out that something they might not want to hear way down the road after it's already happened and been covered up, or intentionally not mentioned. This next story is, boyfriend of 5 years doesn't want to propose after death of my dad. My 29-year-old female, boyfriend 33-year-old male, and I are having an exceptionally difficult year. My dad, 63-year-old male, died tragically and violently a little over a year ago. 3 months before my dad died, my boyfriend had faux proposed, like asked to marry me but didn't have a ring, and I said yes. After my dad died, my priorities were admittedly rearranged and our relationship took a backseat. As the oldest child in my family, I took on a lot of emotional labor with my mom and siblings. My therapist uses an analogy that my family and boyfriend were all in a car accident. but he walked away fine and my mom is bleeding out. So my focus is on her. I'm still traumatized, likely have PTSD, am depressed and anxious grieving the loss of my dad. I'm trying to function as an adult day by day. I've kept my job, try to move my body every day, eat balanced meals, show up for my partner, maintain friendships, doctor's appointments, financial obligations, see my therapist weekly, go to a grief support system, etc. It truly feels like I'm living in a nightmare, but time doesn't stop, and so I'm trying my best. As the months have turned into over a year now, my boyfriend and I have had more conversations about getting engaged. But his tune changed and he doesn't want to marry me right now. He wants me to get better and support him more. He says he's hurt by how I've acted the last year, that I'm not able to empathize with him or validate his feelings. His feelings being that it's a hard year for him and he needs more in a relationship than I've been giving him. I get upset when he says this because my entire world is different and I'm trying my best. I feel criticized and like he wants me to get over my dad and stop helping my mom and just focus on him. He wants to keep dating until things are better and our relationship is more balanced, like I'm able to function at a higher level and take on more around the house, be more affectionate, have bandwidth to plan dates. I feel ready to move into the next phase of my life, marriage and kids. I don't want to keep dating indefinitely until he feels like his bar is met for me being better or supporting him more. He's known me for 5 years. Isn't that enough to know who I am and that I'm deeply struggling right now? But hopefully with time and therapy I can learn to cope in the future? I feel so hurt that he doesn't want to marry me because of what I'm going through. I'm never going to get over my dad. I'm forever changed and altered by what happened. Is it unreasonable to expect him to accept and support me through it? Yes, I'm not winning any Partner of the Year awards, but I'm struggling to tread water and feel like he should be throwing floaties to help, not throwing more water on me. I definitely sympathize a lot with what OP's going through here. It's not an easy thing losing a loved one, and I can definitely understand how if somebody is super close to you or super important, it's going to forever change your world, especially for a good duration of time close to that event. To be fair though, yes, they should be supportive in every way, but if you suddenly decide that you're ready to move on to the next stage, and you're still grieving and it's still difficult, I think it's unfair to begin to put expectations and pressure on him to want to move forward with it too at the same time. I just think it's unfair to try to rush or pressure somebody into getting married when they express that they're not ready for it. Don't get me wrong, his handling of things is definitely not great, not being able to understand how you're grieving and saying you're hurting him. I just feel like there's a lot emotionally going on here, and settling down in the midst of that probably isn't for the best regardless. I'm not saying end it, but I feel like there's work to be done before putting that stamp on this relationship. This next story is, I, 19-year-old female, still feel guilty about not telling my mom what my dad did. My dad, 46-year-old male, and my mom, 46-year-old female, have been together for around 20 years. I'm not sure how long exactly, but a few years ago we went camping. I had work the next day, so my dad drove me down the mountain. He had been drinking, and about halfway down the mountain, he asked how I felt about moving to Canada. I was young, I loved moving, and had no friends in our town, so obviously I was very on board with this idea. He had actually been mentioning it for a while. I asked him why, and for reasons I'm still unsure of, he told me he'd been talking to a woman on Reddit who was from Canada. He was cheating on my mom with her. He even pulled up a picture of her and showed me. I had no idea what to say. My excitement immediately disappeared and I thought I was going to cry. I had a tough childhood and wasn't close to my mom until I was around 16. Around the time my dad told me, I think. Maybe I was 15 or 14, my memory isn't fantastic, especially with dates and ages, but I'd always been close to my dad. I was so shocked by this that I didn't even think to tell my mom at first. Once I thought about it, I knew that one parent was going to be mad at me whichever option I chose. My mom found out on her own only a few days later and had no idea I knew, which I was relieved since I no longer felt any pressure about the situation. Now that I'm older and in a serious relationship, I feel so guilty. I should have told my mom immediately. My parents are still together, and I found out the reason my dad was staying at his brother's and in the camper next to the house when I was 14 was because he had cheated on my mom with her friend's sister. With that added information, I felt so much worse about it. Every time he mentions a female friend, I get nervous and uncomfortable. Is there any way I can possibly get over this guilt? I think the important thing to remember here is the onus on being truthful here is not on OP. Whether OP did or didn't speak up, it wasn't ever supposed to be their job to do so. I think if OP really wants to let go of this guilty conscience, they could sit down privately with their mom and explain what had been going on and how guilty they feel about it. But is it really worth the risk that it might blow up or strain the relationship? Again, I think it's just important to recognize you were young, you didn't really know better, and it wasn't your responsibility. Just because you didn't say anything doesn't make you at fault for stuff that he did. This next story is, should I, 25-year-old male, end my relationship with my girlfriend, 26-year-old female? Long story short, we've been in a relationship for almost 2 years now. It started off great, but now it's become exhausting. We now live with 2 other roommates who are also in a relationship. My girlfriend has 2 dogs that both her ex and her got, and now the dogs are with her at this new place. This guy has been in her life ever since they broke up, and that keeps bothering me. He still likes her and keeps calling her, coming and staying for days in the name of taking care of dogs. My girlfriend also likes the help that she gets from him, which for 2 dogs. I know there's nothing going on from her side, but she can't seem to just say openly that we are together because she's scared of her family and they still think that her and the ex are together. I have to pretend that we're not dating everywhere and everybody thinks that they are together. Hooking up also stopped and it's been more than a year since we had it. All we do is watch something, eat and smoke together. And when he comes over, it gets annoying for me as I don't like how much he's still involved. She pretends she's single in front of him so that he can't say anything to her family. It's too much for me. First, the relationship not being great as is, and this ex's constant involvement. I am tired and she constantly needs support and wants me to just be there for her. Even she doesn't know if we have a future together, as her family might not accept anyone apart from her ex. Is this relationship worth staying and seeing where it takes us? Till the time the dogs are there, this guy won't leave her, and I know they both love the dogs, but where do I stand then? I've talked to her about it multiple times, but she keeps saying that she's helped her a lot in life. She can't just tell him not to come, it's his dog also. You knew what you were getting into and all that. I myself am getting sad and frustrated with my life. Should I end this? In this situation, I can only answer for myself. And if I were an OP situation, I've been through enough to know that I would feel like this is a huge waste and a huge mistake. If I were in OP's shoes, I would go to make a stride in standing up and saying, hey, either we're going to do this and have a relationship, or we need to end this because it's just kind of ridiculous what I'm putting up with and pretending is okay. Don't waste more years of your life having this fake relationship that you can't even express or have in front of other people. I just think the longer this goes on, the greater the regret it's going to be. Especially at 25 years old, don't waste such important years of your life. Our next story is, I, 28-year-old female, am livid after my husband, 31-year-old male, brought home a puppy. My husband and I have been married for 6 years and moved to a new state last year for my job. I work about 60 hours per week. So my husband spends a lot of time on his own. He brought up getting a dog when we first moved to this new state, specifically a Doberman. He had a dog as a child and his parents had to give it away. It's really important for him to have a dog as an adult. Initially, I was very much against it. I'm terrified of big dogs and I'm not an animal person at all. Ultimately, I saw how important this was for him and I asked him to hold off until we can rent or purchase a home. This way, the dog would have a backyard to play in and there would be enough space in the house so the dog and I wouldn't be on top of each other. He seemed to understand my reasoning and decided to buy a fish instead. Fast forward 1 year later, we live in a different apartment and he tells me that he put down a deposit for a Doberman. Once again, I told him that I'm scared of big dogs. He responded that it's a puppy and I won't be scared of it when it's adult-sized because I'll see it grow up. We had a big fight. And I told him our apartment is still way too small for a Doberman and to hold off until we can either rent or buy a house when our current lease ends June 2024. Our apartment also doesn't allow Doberman breeds, but I found out from our property manager that he got a letter from a doctor saying he needs an emotional support animal. Even though he's never struggled with mental illness, He told me that he didn't need my consent or permission to get a dog, and that he's always wanted to get a dog, so he was going to get one. Since I seemed to get nowhere communicating verbally, I wrote him a letter expressing my feelings, and he told me that he'd reach out to the breeder to try to stop the purchase. I thought everything had been sorted, and I was happy that he seemed to hear my concerns. He went on a work trip on Tuesday, and when he returned on Wednesday, he had a dog with him. He did not tell me that he could not cancel the purchase. He did not tell me that he planned to bring a dog back with him. I felt betrayed by his actions. I love this man so much, but I want a divorce because he's shown he is self-serving, deceitful, and puts his desire to have a Doberman above my fear of them. At no point has he apologized or acknowledged how messed up his actions are or offered to rehome the puppy. I feel horrible because he values this dog he's had for 2 days over his marriage to me. Am I overreacting? OP's definitely not overreacting, and I think the main thing here is when OP gave a bunch of very valid reasons, they went, nah, I'm gonna get him anyway. I mean, how long do you put up with and try to pretend that you're okay with that controlling behavior before you realize that this is probably going to extend itself to whatever he wants, and you either just sit there and smile and comply to whatever he wants, or you stand up for yourself. This next story is, boyfriend of 7 years says he won't marry the woman I am right now. Me, 23-year-old female, and my boyfriend, 23-year-old male, moved into a rented flat 6 months ago. We've been together for 7 years, and for 3 of those years, he lived with my parents due to problems within his family. My mother has problems with hoarding and has ADHD, so I know it wasn't easy for him to live with my parents. He also doesn't like animals, and my parents had 2 dogs and a cat. Because of seeing how my mother is, I've always been conscious of being messy and owning too much, but this is something I struggle with, especially when I don't have very much time to clean. Since moving in together, we've both been working 9 to 5, and I've been completing university work on the side. The first few months of living together went well, and he reluctantly allowed me to have a pet cat under the guise that I do all the cleaning, care, and finances related to the cat. I've followed through on my end, apart from asking him to feed the cat one weekend when I was away. The last couple of months, I have been swamped with my job, and there have been times where I haven't done the dishes before he gets home, or my clothes have been in a pile on the bedroom floor. He expressed to me that he has no intention of ever proposing because the person I've been since we moved out is not someone he sees himself being with. The last 3 weeks, I've been working 14 hours, 6 days a week, and so I've only just been staying on top of things. I quit that job and I'm currently sick with COVID, but I'm finding the time to clean the place up. I've been expressing that I'm feeling neglected emotionally and physically. When he comes in from work, he is always unhappy, and when I go to kiss him, he'll offer a cheek and then rush past me. The last 7 months, we've hooked up maybe 7 times. And all of those times have been me initiating. I frequently express interest in getting physical, only to be rejected. He says this is because of personal reasons, and not anything to do with my appearance. I've gained weight in the 7 years since we started dating. He says that when I ask for more affection, it's like telling him he's not good enough. I explained that I understand it hurts when your partner needs something more from you, but that when he expressed needing me to do more housework, I made an effort to change for him. He said it's not the same. He said, "Why do you need to change?" And I said, "Because you wouldn't still love me if I didn't." And he said, "Would that be such a bad thing?" It sounds like he's given up on our relationship, and it breaks my heart. So in this situation, it definitely sounds like he's withholding himself quite a bit. I would try talking to him about it. If he doesn't want to open up, I would legitimately try suggesting something like a couples therapy. If they're not receptive to that and they don't want to open up and they don't want to collaborate and work on this relationship, then yeah, it kind of does sound like they've given up. I mean, when you try to make an effort to save this relationship and you're met with, "Well, would it be such a bad thing if I don't love you?" Really, what more can you do? If you're throwing a life preserver out to them and saying, "Come on, let's work on it," and they just continue to wade in the water with an expressionless stare, is there any saving to do? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely tough relationship question, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.